Matt Zoller Seitz lost his wife, and Joseph Alvaro lost 5 immediate family members within 14 months, including his wife and daughter, and yet they consider themselves some of the lucky ones. In fact, together they took the format they knew best, video, and created a platform by the same name to celebrate those that have died. Joseph is with us today to tell us about the lucky ones. Joseph, welcome to the program.
Hi, John. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So tell us, what brought about the idea and kind of explain what it accomplishes?
Well, Matt and I were talking about having lost our wives and how we dealt with it. And he had mentioned that he'd gone to a bereavement group and they had met a fellow there, an older gentleman, and they were talking about their wives. And Matt had said to the fellow, sometimes wish you hadn't met your wife, and then you would have to deal with all this grief. And Norman looked at him and said, no, not at all. I'm one of the lucky ones. A lot of people never have what I had, and a lot of people never had what you had with your wife. So I consider myself one of the lucky ones. And when Matt and I were talking, he asked me, how do you deal with that and whatever. And I said, well, Matt, I consider myself lucky to have met Frances. She was, the love of my life. And he said, wow, that's so weird. And he told me the story. And then we talked about, he said, I'd like to do something where people could share their stories about someone that they've lost. So we sat down and kind of pounded out a scenario of how we would go about this and what we would call it. And we decided, call it the Lucky Ones, and do these little video biographies of people, people celebrating someone they've lost and telling the world why they were lucky to have known this person. So we go out and shoot man on the street videos. We call them TLO street stories. And we do feature stories where we sit down in someone's home or their office or wherever and talk to them about someone in depth, probably like a 6-minute interview, where the street stories are little 1-minute pieces that go on our social media accounts and then end up on luckyonestv.com, which is our streaming platform. So we built a platform where we can house these, post these videos, and they're from people from all walks of life telling their stories. It's a wonderful thing. It's life affirming and inspiring to hear these people.
What would you say the core message is that you hope folks, maybe it's something that you don't necessarily manufacture, obviously, it's something that just continues to come up. What's that core message?
We all have these continuing bonds with people that we've loved. When someone passes away, they're still with us. They haven't, just because they're dead doesn't mean that they don't exist in our minds, our hearts, and our souls. When we speak to other people, we tell stories about them and what they did, how they acted, how they behaved, how they enriched our lives. So that's something that we think is important, and that people in our society, we really don't have a venue like that, and we don't talk about people who have died. We're often very uncomfortable about it because we think it'll make other people uncomfortable. When in reality, if you talk about all the good things and the loving things and the things that made them so special, that's not uncomfortable. I mean, that's how you keep someone's memory alive, and how you share what they meant to you and what they meant to others.
Hey guys, John Graham here from LivingSeven, and my wife Jill and I are so excited to do our part to help families that are grieving. And I want to get right back to this interview with Joseph Alvaro, who was just so generous with his time, and what an awesome resource at Lucky Ones TV. But before I do that, I want to tell you about a resource we're trying to put together called Help Me Help You. It's simply a guide to help families and friends of people that are hurting know how to best help. I've heard so many stories about people saying, gosh, you would not believe the things that people say to me and try to do for me when I am at my deepest and lowest grieving spot. And we want to just give a no-nonsense guide, a little booklet to help folks. But in order to do that, we need your stories. So if you'll go to our website, living7.org, and the very top post at the moment, you'll see the supposed book cover, what we hope the book cover to look like, and a little link there where you can go to a form, a little survey. If you can tell us a little bit about your grief story and some of the greatest things people did to help you and what they said and what they did. and some of the most horrible things people said to you. Let's not hold anything back. Let's just tell folks what the best way that they can help others. We really feel like this is going to be a great tool, and we're not going to make any money off of it. We're just going to give it away for free as an ebook. We may have a small fee for the actual print copies because there's an actual cost to that. But we hope to get this thing put together pretty quickly and serve as a tool for folks that want to know best how to people who've been through what you've been through, most likely, if you're watching this. So thanks again. Let's get back to this interview with Joseph Alvaro and Lucky Ones TV.
Have any stories, I mean, I know they're all precious, but any particular stories come to mind as some that are just like, wow, that's a strong one?
For me, the strongest ones are when young men talk about being raised by someone other than their parents, whether it's a grandparent or young women too, an aunt or someone that took them in, or a great grandmother. In one case, a young woman had a great grandmother take her in, and they talk about, how lucky they were that someone was there to take care of them, where they might be in foster care or on the streets if someone, if this person hadn't stepped up and helped raise them, give them somewhere, give them some guidance in life and parent them. And then there are stories about people who have, they talk about friends that have died, and unfortunately died younger than we assume people usually die. Those are quite touching because they talk, they're talking about young people and their troubles.
You know that firsthand. How did you get through the unbelievable 5 losses in 14 months? How did you walk through that?
Well, after my wife passed away, I lost my brother-in-law a couple months later in a skydiving accident, and then another uncle in July, and then my daughter. So it was a rapid succession, and then my father later on in January. I think it's very much, you lose someone, and like anything in life, you learn how to deal with something the more you experience it. So I think the more you experience something like that, I don't want to say it becomes easier, but you know how to process it better. You know the steps that need to be taken to get through this. So you become almost an expert at it. I mean, and I equate it to being, like soldiers in war. Oftentimes they'll lose a buddy, and when they lose their first friend, it's very traumatic. But as time goes on, they lose more friends. It's not that they don't grieve for them. It's just that they've learned how to cope with it.
Yeah.
And they've learned how to internalize it and deal with it in a way that is not necessarily debilitating.
What advice do you give to folks that, they don't have as much experience as someone like you might have first time in? Well, I mean, what do you say?
I don't think there's anything you can say to someone that's lost someone other than, you're sorry for their loss. I think time is the great healer, and time is the thing that allows us to put our lives back together. When someone dies, you lose a piece of yourself, and you've kind of broken apart, and it takes time to kind of put your life back together without this piece that was in it before. And it takes time to become whole again. I think that's really what it's about. When you lose someone like your daughter or a child, it's much different because they're basically a part of you. I mean, literally a part of you. Your blood flows through their veins.
There's a lot of resources out there that help people deal with grief. Whether they find them when they need them is a different issue, but there's not a lot of resources that help people deal with grief. What kind of words would you offer to folks that, my neighbor just had a tragedy, or my friend just had a tragedy? Any advice that you give there?
Time and talking to people that can help you. Maybe it's a cleric, some kind of counseling, a bereavement group. People that understand what you're going through, I think is helpful. I think getting back to your daily routine is very important. Just get back to it. Go back to work, go back to living your life, because you have to. Mm-hmm. You can't crawl up in a fetal position with a bottle of wine the rest of your life. You have to move on. And I think everyone deals with it differently, and how they internalize death is different. But for the most part, we're all pretty much the same. And I think time is the thing that does more than anything to help.
Have you seen recurring theme in some of those stories about how faith factors in with folks?
With many folks, they talk about their faith. They talk about, and people talk about them. When people talk about someone in the lucky ones, they're talking about the moral underpinning this person gave them. The ability to function in our society as a productive member. And those things are learned at a very young age. And these people talk about, the folks that help them become adults. And some of them talk about their religious beliefs and how the religious underpinnings of the people that raised them help them get through life and help them become who they are today. People that want to do good in life. So it's interesting. I mean, people come from, we get people from all walks of life, so you get all kinds of stories with people from all kinds of backgrounds.
Yeah.
I think most people are pretty spiritual.
Yeah. So the process of getting your story on the lucky ones, how does that work?
We go out and do these street interviews, but also what we do is we have on the luckyonestv.com, we have the ability for people to upload their own stories. So if you wanted to, John, write a story and include pictures, you could upload it to our site, or you could do your own 60 to 90 second video and post that to our site. So we have the ability for people to contribute their own stories. And we encourage people to contribute their own stories. We go out and shoot stories, but it's nice that people would want to tell their stories and share them with people. And then what we do is if they're, we put them on social media first. They go on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram on our accounts at Lucky Ones TV, and then they get put on the platform luckyones.com, luckyonestv.com, where they live, and people can go through the library and watch, people, relatives, friends, spouses. It's broken down by category.
Now you encourage folks to change their mindset from suffering loss to celebrating life. That's probably easier said than done sometimes, right?
It's interesting. When we shoot these things, so many people say to us, thank you for letting me tell my story. Thank you for letting me talk about this person. They really meant something to me. And then those that aren't quite ready, people say, no, I'm not quite ready. It's too soon or what have you. But we love what you're doing and thank you very much. They're just not emotionally ready to go there.
Yeah.
But after, I think, within 6 months, most people are ready to talk about someone and they want to talk about someone. They want to celebrate that person's life and what they meant to us.
So Joseph, you've actually shared with us one of the stories as an example. Let's just throw to that right now and we'll watch one and, as it comes in.
Okay, very good. This is Daisy. She was a young woman that we interviewed at a street fair.
She was like my second mother and one of my best friends and a spiritual mentor to me. I really struggled with a lot of things, especially like depression. I struggled with suicidal thoughts, and she taught me to keep laughing even when there's a lot of pain and to never give up and continue fighting. She just taught me about faith and about love, something that I really didn't know until I met her. She taught me through her actions. So without my aunt, I really wouldn't know what love would be. There's no one that I've met to this day that compares to who she was to me. My name is Daisy, and I'm one of the lucky ones.
Wow, Joseph, what a line. Without her aunt, she would have not have known what love is. What a powerful line. That's just fantastic stuff. And I guess they're all just that you hate to say exciting. I mean, inspirational is a good word. But that almost sounds too clinical. I mean, it's just like you want to reach through the screen and give her a hug,
It's cathartic in a lot of ways, I mean, And people talk, and her journey was different than other people's. Other people talk about different things, but that was her journey. That was her story. And, I think, like she said, she was close to suicide. I mean, she had suicidal thoughts.
Yeah.
There's more to that interview too that's not there, but yeah. So she was lucky to have had an aunt that took her in and guided her through life.
How has doing the Lucky Ones helped you personally through your tragedy? I mean, I would imagine being able to offer this is rewarding and kind of I don't want to say fills the hole that was left, but it certainly is um, a positive thing, right? I mean,
when I hear these stories, I know what I'm doing is right. I know what Paul, my other partner, and I, when we go out and shoot these things, we know that we're doing something special and that's something that's helping people.
yeah,
And we want our society, and we'd like to try to get our society to the point, where people are very open about this. I mean, when you go to a wake, people get up, they tell jokes, they tell stories about the person. That's what we want. We want to kind of remove this mopey kind of haze and fog, and say, let's clear the air. These people did good things in life. Let's celebrate that. Let's talk about them. There's nothing wrong with letting the world know that someone special touched your life.
yeah.
And so what we want to do is create these stories, and then we want people to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, so that it spreads the message that you too can be a lucky one. And you probably are a lucky one. Now, we run into some people say, you know what? I haven't experienced anyone close to me that's died. I guess I'm kind of lucky. And I'm like, yeah, I guess you are, in some respects.
Yeah.
It's not the kind of lucky we're looking for.
Right.
But, you are fortunate. But, death is part of life. I mean, it happens to all of us. None of us are going to live forever.
So let's talk about your social media connections. Where can folks connect up with the Lucky Ones?
Well, they can go to Lucky Ones TV. We're at Lucky Ones TV, rather, I should say, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And we have a feed. What we do is when we interview someone, they send us pictures of the people so that we can cut them into the videos. And what we do is then we take one of those pictures, and the first thing we do is we do it in a series where we post a picture of that person with their name and the person who is lucky to have known them. And then the second day, we take a quote from the person that we interviewed and post it. And then the third day, we run the video. So we get like a series of, I call it a series. What would you? I'm at a loss for words here, but it's a little campaign, I guess, is the word I'm looking for each person. Mm-hmm. And it seems to work nicely. It lets people, know this is coming. Watch for the next one. Watch for the next video, kind of a thing. It sets it up. It sets up each video.
Now, you also wrote a book. I'm one of the lucky ones. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, one of my partners, Travis, when we were discussing this took a while for us to build. I mean, we've been working on this for about 4 years now, and we only went live in June. And about a while back, we were talking when we were in the early stages. Travis said, you should write a book. And I said, well, what do I write a book about? I said, well, what you just talked to me about your wife, the story you just told me to write, you need to write a book about it. So I wrote the book as a companion piece to Lucky Ones to help us build an audience. So if with the book attached, it's a little easier. I mean, to get press because you've got a book and then we've got some videos, and it helped just spread the word. And it was actually fun to write. I enjoyed writing the book, and it's a tribute to my wife and her tenacity in life and her spirit.
That's so great. Well, I tell you, I assume folks can get that Amazon, any of those kind of places.
Amazon, Barnes and Noble. They can also at luckyones.tv.com. They can go there. There's a link there where they can purchase the book if they'd like. But more importantly, we want people to tell their stories. We want people to express why they were lucky to have had people in their lives and what made that person so special.
Absolutely.
And we think it's important. No one else is doing this. We haven't run across anyone else that has found this little niche and said, let's celebrate these folks.
Outstanding. Well, I hope we're doing our part to help folks learn about it, and we want to encourage folks to go to Lucky Ones TV. Give the website again one more time so we get it all right.
Yeah, it's luckyonestv.com.
All right.
Real simple. And then follow us at Lucky Ones TV on your social media platforms.
Fantastic.
We're going to enter different, we're going to go to different cities and do these stories. So, we're just growing. We only launched in June.
Yeah. Well, it's an outstanding service, and so grateful for your time today. And so luckyonestv.com, and all of us have a story that we can share. So let's keep the memory of folks alive, and go there and do your part and contribute. And thank you, Joseph, for spending some time with us.
Well, thank you, John, for having me. You have a good
Absolutely.
day.
All right.